Boker Tov. This is a instructional video for putting on our talit, talis with a Yiddish influence of the pronunciation, and tefillin, or tefillin as sometimes it's called, again with Yiddish influence on the Hebrew. The blessing very often is right on the band, on the atara, and the neck band, but not on this one. And it's on page 140 in the Seder Avodah prayer book, actually page 142. Say, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Kiddushanu B'mitzvotav Vitzivanu Lehitatef Batzitzit. Now, a lot of talisim, talitot, had, when I was growing up, a Magen David, a Jewish star over here, and a Jewish star over there. So I was taught, kiss the Jewish stars, but you don't have to do that. And whether you have Jewish stars on your talis or not. And you're not always going to have a mirror like I have right now to look into my screen, but you want to sort of even them out. And for this talis, it is worn best like this. You pull it up on either side and sort of wrap it. But then there's also the shawl talitot, more like this, and that's fine also. Oh, you see what I mean? It has the crown, but it also has these Magen Davids around, looks like 10 Commandments. Okay, so now we are ready to put on the tefillin. Now, the tefillin you usually have in a bag, and you want to make sure when you put them away the time before that you put them away properly. So if you're a righty, you're always going to be putting the tefillin on your left arm, in which case I make sure to put the tefillin for the left arm on the left side of the bag, so I take the correct one out. If by any reason you've put them in the wrong place in the bag, or they've shuffled, which is unusual, or you just reached for the wrong side by accident, don't put it back. You've already taken out the wrong one, put it down on the table, take out the one you need, and put the bag on top of it. That's related actually to the same idea of keeping your challah covered during the blessing for the wine on Friday night, so that it's not left out, sort of embarrassed, according to the rabbis. Okay, so now here's my tefillin for the arm. This one comes with a simple box cover, just like this. Uncover it. There are the hinged ones, which I can explain in another video sometime, but these were my father's of blessed memory. I keep them at home, and I'm home today, coronavirus time. So usually people kiss the top, and they're ready to go with the arm. Now, of course, you have to roll up your sleeve, and you want to make sure when you put it on that it's hanging down. If you put it on like this, it's going to flop and very often not wind properly. Most people take off their watch. I really like my watch, and I don't like to lose my watch. So very often I see it as, well, a separate blessing and a separate part to put it on the hand, and I'll keep my watch on. But most people feel that you should take it off. So now it's on here, pointing in a little bit, definitely not out here. And you can hold it sort of with your forearm so it doesn't flop for this part, and tighten it so that you only see black back here. If you're seeing this, it will be twisted, it might be uncomfortable, and it might be that you have the whole thing on improperly and it's not going to wind nicely. This is your preparation. These don't count in counting the 7 that we're going to be counting, but this is where we make the blessing. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Kiddushanu B'mitzvotav Vitzivanu Lehaniach Tefillin. Just a blessing saying thank you, God, for the mitzvah of putting on tefillin, or placing tefillin. And now come the 7. Now, I like to say a verse with 7 words, HaMechadesh Betuvo Bechol Yom Tamid Ma'aseh Bereshit, instead of counting simply to 7, gives it a little bit of meaning, that God renews God's own creation constantly. A lot of people also use one that mentions the arm, which is also nice, and a verse from Ashrei is quite familiar to many. Poteach et yadecha umaspia lechol chai ratzon. There you go, there's 7. This doesn't count. You just put that there and leave it there. Put all the excess around the middle of the arm, the hand rather, and hold it like a fist. Jewish daily blood pressure you should be feeling. Not so tight that it turns your arm colors, but not so loose that it falls down and isn't where we put it. Now I take off the cover of the roche, of the shell roche, sometimes it's called. Shell just means of roche. It wasn't called Sheldon roche, and it got shortened to shell. Yeah, I know, it's not all that funny. But now that I have the shell roche cover off, kiss it, and now you put it here. Roche meaning head, shell roche of the head, or a lot of the boxes just say roche. As you're putting it on, you're saying the second blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tefillin, or tefillin, proper Hebrew pronunciation. That is a blessing simply saying thank you, God, for the mitzvah, for the commandment, rather than the first one, which is to put on tefillin, lehaniach tefillin, or to place tefillin, the mitzvah al mitzvah tefillin, about or of the mitzvah of tefillin. The blessings are so similar that we add a little something to make it different. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. You know that from the second line in Kriyat Shema before V'ahavta. Now comes the part that has the most difference between people and their traditions, whether Sephardic or Ashkenazic, whether from this place or from that place. People generally are doing what they were taught to do the very first time they put on tefillin, but you have to do what's meaningful to you. And if you learn a different way that's meaningful to you, go for it. Usually in some way, shape, or form, you are spelling God's name, Shaddai, Shin, Dalid, Yud. And there's many shins and dalids and yuds throughout the tefillin that can be on another video. Just have your hand like this and take the bottom strap and bring it to your middle finger and make it look like that. Now take the same one, go to the top of the middle finger and wind it again. Then come back and cross it. Now I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to move the light so that you can see better. All right, I'm going to show you again, and hopefully this will be easier to see. You're taking this bottom part here, come to the middle of the bottom of the middle finger, and make it look like that. Now come back to the top of the middle finger, make it look like that. Now come back and cross it and look like that. Then take this strap and through the back, come to the ring finger and come down and meet that first wind so that it looks like this. I'm going to do that again. You're like this. You've done the first 3. Remember? 1. This will become second nature. 2, 3. Now you're coming back to the ring finger and bringing it down like that. Now go back to where you were on the ring finger, and this time come straight down to here. Now you've made a V. V for victory? What's a V for? That doesn't have any Jewish meaning. It's an English letter. Right. So you come back up to here and come right through the V, and now it should look like a shin. Take all the excess, and if you're full grown, you can cut some of it off. That's no problem. But if you do cut it off, make sure to cut it off on an angle like it already should be. That is one of the many yuds that are on the tefillin. That's what it's supposed to look like, a yud. And now, during the winding, as you get used to doing that winding on the hand, while you're doing the winding, you say, Ve'erastich li le'olam. These words from Hosea, from the book of Hosea. Ve'erastich li betzedek uvemishpat uvechesed uverachamim. Ve'erastich, by the third time you should be good at ve'erastich. Ve'erastich li be'emunah. Viadat et Adonai. Now, unwinding. Take all the winds off of the hand, but just leave it like that. You can put all the excess here, or you can let it hang. Either way. It's just a piece of leather. If it hits the floor, it's not the end of the world. Some people feel strongly about it. They keep it up on a table, keep it from falling onto the floor. But, as I said, it's just a piece of leather. Very often, this gets twisted up. Ideally, it should be laying straight like this when you have your tefillin on. Now we're taking it off. So I took off the hand wrappings. Remember, that was the last thing that we did. Now I can take off the rosh. There are no blessings or texts to say when you remove tefillin, only when you put them on. Now make sure you got the box that says rosh. If you look carefully, it says rosh. Remember, it was Shell Roche in some of them, short for Sheldon Roche? No. Okay, take the box, put it on top of the Roche. This can be kind of tricky. You take the knot and hold it to the bottom here. With those big floppy boxes, it makes it a little easier. There's more surface. I fold these in like that. After a while, they start to have indentations because they're so used to being pushed in that direction, and you sort of got to get an edge of it and be able to wind on the side. And keep holding it each time, and it will stay tight, and then just sort of turn it and get the other side, and the other side can sometimes hold the extra leather of the first one down and wrap nicely. It kind of looks like a tank. You know, those are the parts of the tank. Wheels, replacements for wheels. I don't know what they call those. Okay, so now we take off the rest of the arm tefillin, the shell yad, and now it's off. Take your box, put it on top, tighten that. So if it's like this, it's going to be a problem, or it's just going to be messy. And a lot of this is just so that it's nice and you've treated it with respect, as it has all of the verses in the Torah that describe tefillin on teeny little parchments inside. In the Rosh, they're in 4 different compartments, at 4 different verses, 4 different areas, not just verses, they're whole passages. And in the arm, they're one after the other on one long scroll. Wind a little bit on one side, and then go to the perpendicular side. If you want to do it like a tank again, you do less on that back, and you try to get a lot on one side. And when it seems like you've done about half, go to the other side. And it doesn't have to be, tight so that it's never going to unravel, because in the bag it's usually going to stay relatively tight. And again, looks a little bit like a tank. I don't know. Where do I put this in the bag? I make sure to put it on the left side, looking at whatever stitching is on the bag. Usually it's only on one side, so it's on the left side. If you're a righty of the bag, then you'll always take the right one out first. Not the right one, the correct one. There's a difference. Oh, I know, you're wondering, why is this kippah in my pocket for the Eagles? Why isn't it on my head? Well, I have a kippah on my head. These big kippahs, no disrespect to the Eagles, but they're terrible this year. They're kind of hard with tefillin, because then the tefillin will hold down the kippah, and the tefillin should be right on the skin, right on your scalp. So if it does, then pull it out after you get the tefillin shel rosh on and get it independent, then you can put it back on. But that's why I wasn't wearing our treasured Eagles kippah. Thank you for spending some time with me today. As always, good luck. B'hatzlacha.